that I've sued Evergreen Acres Dairy, its owners and operators, and associated businesses for using a variety of means to illegally withhold wages from some of the most vulnerable workers in our state. We estimated that they have failed to pay in the neighborhood of $3 million in wages for the workers, if not more. That's an estimate. Think about it, $3 million in unpaid wages. The size of the theft makes this one of the largest enforcement actions our office has taken to fight wage theft. Evergreen isn't just some small family farm. It's a large operation that over the last 3 years has employed hundreds of workers who work at multiple locations in Stearns and Redwood counties. Many of its workers find their roots in Mexico, and some of them don't speak very much English at all. Evergreen has exploited the vulnerabilities of these workers to deny them their wages by systematically underreporting the number of hours that workers work on their pay stubs, often shaving off 12 to 32 hours from each 2-week pay period. In so doing, they've robbed employees of both regular wages and overtime premiums owed. We allege that Evergreen has so illegally withheld wages by refusing to pay its employees for time worked at the beginning and end of their employment. Most workers simply weren't paid for the first 2 weeks on the job. Many worked 72-hour weeks and only got paid for 60. One worker put in 180 hours of work in 2 weeks and then saw that a full quarter of his pay had vanished from his paycheck. And if someone quit or got fired for asking too many questions, most simply never got their final paychecks. We also allege that Evergreen has attempted to cover up its wage theft by doing a few other things, including refusing to document most of its employment practices in writing, which is against the law, failing to provide employees with written information about how they are paid, which is also required by the law, and even falsifying pay stubs and destroying the time cards that are required to be kept by law that would show how many hours its employers actually worked. I could stop there. That's egregious enough. But this sad reality doesn't stop there. It continues on, because Evergreen isn't just a boss. It's also a landlord. And the substandard housing they provided their workers, who in a rural area had few to no other options for housing, was simply shocking. Mildew, insect infestations, no heat, no windows. These residences violated most basic health and safety standards, and they are frankly not within the bounds of human decency. I think we have some photos that we could show you right now. Evergreen also violated the law by making unauthorized deductions from workers' paychecks for this substandard and unsafe housing. That's just another form of wage theft. They also repeatedly violated tenants' basic rights to privacy that are protected under Minnesota law. We also allege that part of how Evergreen got away with all this was by discouraging workers from complaining and instilling a culture of fear, intimidation, threats to call the police and other authorities, and even outright violence. When one employee was injured on the job and unable to work, Evergreen owner Keith Schaefer allegedly grabbed that employee by the neck and pushed him into a wall and told him that they would be evicted from Evergreen housing in 10 minutes if they did not return to work immediately. It's hard to describe exactly how I feel about how Evergreen has treated these people, these Minnesotans. But I can tell you one thing, I'm outraged and I'm upset that they've gotten along with it for so long. With this lawsuit today, I'm asking the court to make them stop these practices and to pay workers for the wages that these workers have earned. I want to thank those workers who came forward amid these threats, intimidation, and sometimes violence to tell the truth about what was going on. Thanks to them, we're going to be able to hold Evergreen accountable for their bad conduct. I also want to make it clear that as part of this enforcement action, we've asked the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which is responsible for enforcing immigration law, to make what's known as deferred action relief available. I also want to note that Evergreen is not just hurting these workers and these tenants. It's hurting everybody in their industry who plays by the rules. You should be able to play by the rules and not be undercut and have your market share taken away by a business who cuts the corners and treats people poorly. The dairy industry is not an easy industry. It is a tough industry, and it cannot afford people who don't play by the rules. This enforcement action today does not only protect Evergreen's workers, it protects you and everybody else in the industry from trying to gain an unfair advantage by breaking the law. Wage theft is still too prevalent in our United States and in Minnesota. And that's why I started the wage theft unit in 2019. As I said, this is one of the biggest cases we've taken on so far, and it should send a message that we will fight wage theft to make sure that every worker in Minnesota takes home every penny that they have earned, no matter how big the employer or how vulnerable the worker. With that, let me just thank my staff who has worked so hard on this matter. I'll start with James Canaday, Jessica Whitney. Special thanks again to Jason Plagencool. This could not have gone forward without Jonathan Moeller, who was the head of our wage theft unit, and with the help of Catherine Kelly, who was the head of our civil rights/housing group. Special thanks to David Pegg, who was an investigator and who has tremendous language proficiency, who has helped us with this investigation, and Lindsay Lee, who is a tireless litigator on our staff, together with other investigative staff like Maria Minville and Jonathan Gotel. And thanks to everyone else. Let me now see if any of my colleagues would like to make a comment on this matter before we turn it over to the members of the press community. Anybody want to supplement any of my comment? Okay, well, I don't hear anybody piping up, so let me just say that we're ready to try to answer some of your questions. We have filed, we will be filing the complaint, or already have filed it, and we'll be looking forward to responding. So the floor is open, and we'll take maybe 3 or 4 questions.
Hi, Attorney General Ellison. This is Max Nestrak with Minnesota Reformer. Will there be criminal charges in this case?
That is the potential. My office does not have direct jurisdiction over criminal prosecution. Original jurisdiction lies with the counties. But you know, Minnesota does have some of the best anti-wage theft criminal laws in the country. And so that is certainly a possibility.
So are you coordinating with the county attorneys in Stearns and is it Redwood?
You know, at this time, you know, I'd like to avoid talking about who I'm coordinating with and how. People who might have real responsibility here, I don't want to give them any more tip-offs than they are going to get with the announcement of this lawsuit. But I'll put it like this: if you're not abiding by the law, you probably should.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Dee DePass with the Star Tribune. Hi there. I have a question. How long has your investigation taken place? When did you first discover that these violations were taking place, and how did the discovery come about? Through employees coming to your office, or through third-party community groups, or can you talk a little bit about the background of this?
Well, we first heard from community members who reached out directly to our office and reported their concerns with not only about the wage theft issues, but also about the landlord practices. So when we got those tips, we began to follow up. And as I noted in my original remarks, it took a lot of courage and guts for those workers to actually tell us what was happening, but they did. And then we just pursued the matter until we're at this point where we're filing this lawsuit.
Okay. And how long ago was this, and how many workers do you think are involved?
Months, and I would say a substantial number of workers. Certainly, they've employed hundreds of workers. I don't know if anybody on the staff wants to give a more, a more, a closer approximate number, but it's several, well over several dozen, perhaps fewer than 100.
Keith, I can give a little more detail on
Go for it.
the
Go for
timing.
it, Jonathan.
So after receiving initial complaints, we were able to gather enough information to send a civil investigative demand to Evergreen in March of 2023. And because Evergreen had destroyed records and had not complied with Minnesota record-keeping laws, employee testimony was crucial to establish Evergreen's scheme to systematically underpay its workforce. The office discovered the true nature of Evergreen's housing in November 2023, and we moved as fast as possible after that to file this action and remedy those harms.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. Any other questions? Well, I don't hear from anyone else, so let me just say thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the press, for joining us this afternoon. This is a very important.
One more question. So sorry, it's Dee again.
Yeah, go for it.
I realize this is a civil complaint, but any idea what you all are asking for? Are there remedies you're seeking in this in terms of dollar amounts, fines, or anything like that we should expect? Or
it's a good question.
Just bring us up to date on that.
Well, the first thing we want is for Evergreen to stop violating the law going forward. We need them to stop. We need them to start paying employees for all the time that they work, including overtime premiums. Stop making unlawful deductions from employees' paychecks, such as deducting rent without written permission. They had to start giving employees a written wage notice when they start employment, so the employees know how much they're supposed to be paid, along with other important information. They need to start keeping time cards and other legally required employment records. They need to comply with Evergreen's duty as a landlord to ensure habitable housing, and they need to respect employee tenant rights to privacy, and they need to stop evicting employee tenants without, and when I say employee tenants, that's like a hyphenate, two words joined by a hyphen, employee tenants, because that's what they are, without following the proper legal process. We're seeking to get money back, restitution to employees who were not paid for all their work that they did in overtime, but also for unlawful deductions. We're seeking liquidated damages, which is equal to the amount of the unpaid wages, overtime premiums, and unlawful deductions. And we're looking at, we're seeking civil penalties up to $25,000 for each violation and reasonable attorney's costs. So, we've estimated, and we have a cost estimate in the restitution area, which is in the realm of $3 million. Again, that's an estimate. We'll learn more as the legislation moves forward. So that's what we're looking for, and I thank you for asking the question.
Sure thing.
So as I wrap, are there any members of the staff, Jessica, James, Jason, John Moeller, Catherine Kelly, David Pegg, anybody who wants to fill in any point that I may have not included? This is a good time to do that. Okay, that must mean I was pretty thorough. Let me say again to ladies and gentlemen of the press, thank you all for joining us today to hear about this important lawsuit that we're filing against Evergreen Housing and Dairy. And let me just say that we are dedicated at the Attorney General's office to helping people afford their lives. And that means people have got to get their pay that they earn, and they've got to live in safe, habitable environment. And that's our commitment. Thank you all very much. This will conclude our press conference.
Hey, Keith, able to hang out for a little bit after?
Sure.
Awesome. Thank
Sure.
you.
Brian, do you want anyone else or just Keith?
Maybe comms team plus David for the video he translated.
I'm good. I'm on.
Yeah, Keith David wrote a script to the video in Spanish for you to record that we will also post. So that's what we wanted to do right now. If you got a minute, do you have do we have the script to Keith?
If you
Just
send
sent
it, I
it.
could pull it up. Is it on an email? Where is it, on the email?
Yes.
This was Brian's idea. I think this was a great idea for you to have a chance to speak directly to the workers and thank them. It'll really help people dispel their fear.
Yeah, mostly I'm just looking for it now.
I just sent it over.
It should pop up. Okay, yeah, my last entry was like 11:20. Maybe it's just taking a minute. Oh, there it is. Got it.